Good afternoon. Here we are again at Catholic Missioner Conversations with Bishop Tom Zinkula, and I am Barbara Arlen Fye, the one of the hosts, I guess. I guess Bishop is my other co-host, right?
However you look at it.
Anyways,
you just tell me to show up, and I show up.
And you do. I'm just
like
so happy about that. And so I wanted to focus on your recent meeting with the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops just this past month, or last month, I guess. And there's kind of some interesting things you had to say about that whole experience. Would that be okay if we talked about that?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll try to remember.
Whatever happened there, right?
Whatever happened there.
Okay. So I thought you talked about the importance of fraternal dialogue and how the opportunity for prayer and Eucharistic adoration throughout the assembly built on attentiveness to the Holy Spirit's guidance. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it wasn't, this wasn't the first time that we've started meeting this way. But I think the last November meeting we did, and people the bishops liked that, and as a way to start the meeting. And so, it was, we started with prayer. That was the first thing that happened on Monday morning, was it? Or afternoon, whatever it was. But anyways, the first thing, I think Monday morning. And, right, so we're praying before the Blessed Sacrament. There's the opportunity for celebrating the Sacrament of Reconciliation. There's, people there for that. And then a bishop, an older retired bishop, these two times we've done it, has given a talk about whatever, unity, in essence, and then that's kind of the morning in a sense, and it's been very good, and so that's one thing we've been working on in terms of
what inspired that. I mean, you said it started like a year ago when you started.
Because remember.
I do remember. That's why I'm asking you.
Not this last June, but the June before. There's the November meeting, but there's also a June meeting. And it was Zoom, which didn't help probably. And we were talking about, I don't know, what was it?
I think it's about the election.
Well, it was not distributing communion to certain politicians, that kind of thing. It wasn't our finest moment, but it's fine. I mean, in terms of people are honest, and here's their stuff, and we can disagree with each other. And so then we wanted to start the next meeting in a different way after that. I think that's when it kind of
I think that was it.
Right.
So it helps you calm down a little bit when you're having your discussions, right?
Well, it just puts you in in a good, frame of mind maybe going into this thing.
Exactly.
And we pray together, and we have this common faith that we share, and I mean, and the role that we play in the church, and I mean, we're brothers,
right?
And before, as bishops, and everybody knows that, but it's kind of maybe you can lose sight of that along the way.
And brothers don't always get along. I do recall that I have some brothers that I get along with.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now the nuncio, Archbishop Christopher Pierre. The papal nuncio, he told the bishops that the spreading the gospel message is particularly important as we live through a time of accelerated change. And so I was wondering, he said one way to determine if the church is following its missionary role is to look at how local churches are functioning as evangelizing communities. What does that mean to you? What are we doing in our diocese to be evangelizing communities?
So the nuncio always gives a talk early on, an opening address always, and he does a good job, I think. In our diocese, I mean, I've said evangelization is kind of the main thing, and it's not just because it's my thing, because it was Jesus' thing too, go out to all the nations, and all that, and we've been focusing on that, and we started on that road before the pandemic, and the pandemic sort of interfered with kind of where we were going things, which is fine. We had a chance to regroup and think about things maybe differently. And we've hired a director of evangelization, and he's been getting his feet on the ground. He's been in this role for maybe a year and a half now, and kind of get things going again. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, here's the synod, and there's these listening sessions, and we're going to do that, participate in that as Pope Francis wanted us to, and then we've had our summary. We put together our summary and passed it on, and then it goes, it goes up the ladder, whatever. So, but we can, and that'll play itself out, however it plays itself out eventually in Rome, this synodal process. But that doesn't mean we can't do something at our level. And here's a gift. Here's this thing. We've heard people. Let's discern where the Spirit is calling us from, given what we've heard. Where do we go with this? And we're working on that, and we're taking our time. And eventually next year we'll, decide kind of. We've already decided kind of what we want to focus on the next 3 years, and then so for the next year, then how are we going to put that into action? What's it going to look like? And,
That's exciting.
yeah, and we're taking our time with it. We'll hopefully we're planning on having an event, a kickoff event here, at St. Ambrose, where we're recording this, and in the summer, and do what you're saying.
And it's continual dialogue with people, isn't it? I mean, we've been doing that this whole fall too, haven't we?
Yeah,
with
right.
The parishes.
Right. We've been asking parish councils and school boards to help us with this process and help us discern where to go, kind of what the next step will be, what we focus on, and and we take that and here we've been talking about that, what they've said, and here's these 3 things that they're saying we should focus on. I mean, we could do a podcast on that someday.
Yeah, we will.
At some point at the right time. And then we'll stay in touch with them along the way, like you're saying, listening and keep them engaged. And that's what we're learning about this, being a synodal church, is we need to do that better. And we'll walk together and see where it gets us.
That sounds great. And then what about, you described, it seemed like this whole assembly with your fellow bishops, your brother bishops, was really a lot about relationship building. And you described what I would call a poignant presentation in which Mark Williams, a victim survivor of clergy sexual abuse, spoke. And so did a church leader who listened to his cry for help. And that was Cardinal Joseph Tobin, I think, of Newark, New Jersey. And you were talking about you were trying to describe that experience to me. Can you talk a little bit about
right? So before we get to that, we can talk. We talked about how we started the plenary assembly, but also we had opportunities for fraternal dialogue along the way. I'll get to answer your question eventually, but just to kind of give it some
set
context.
The atmosphere. Okay.
Right, and yeah. We did fraternal dialogue. We had done 2 or 3 of those in June at our June meeting, and it was good. There's maybe 12, 15 bishops in each group, and there's there's the large assembly where we're all gathered. And there's that whole experience, which is most bishops don't talk because it's this large group. Maybe it's a little bit intimidating, whatever. I don't know. And there's no offense, but journalists there with their microphones and cameras, and it's just this. It can it's just most guys. There's some that talk, just a small percentage that talk a lot, right? And with these fraternal dialogues, though, everybody talks, and you can get a better sense. Okay, here's the subjects that we want you to talk about. We did 2 of those in November.
That's right.
And you get a better gauge of where people are at, and just the interactions. There's more, just better stuff. There's more. I don't know. It's a different chemistry, a different kind of a feel to it. And so that was good. People like that, and you get to know other bishops in terms of relationships and that sort of a thing. And the other thing, so that was different, although we did it in June, but never in a November meeting. And then in the
You picked at random for these groups?
Yeah, it was just all random.
Okay.
And then in the big large conference room, it's always been these rows of chairs and and tables, and this time there were round tables, and when you walk in there the first time, well, this is different, and it is, and it's you just engage each other in a different way. And the only downside of it for me is the ones who are on there is the front area, the stage thing, where the president is and vice president, those people, and so if you're on that side, you have to turn your chair around, right? It's a little bit awkward for a couple of people at each table.
Sacrifice to make.
But one thing that they didn't do, I think they didn't have any kind of small group stuff. We had our fraternidades where we went in different places for that, but we could do some of that there.
Yeah.
And okay, here's something, you guys talk at your table, and and then people can share, whatever. But it might be hard for you to share because it'd be a lot of tables, and you couldn't have hear from each one. So I don't know what would happen with that, but so that's all good. So back to your question. What was that again? Oh yeah,
About the victim survivor.
Yeah, well, it was a 20-year anniversary of the charter, and we're kind of working on revising that, updating it, and we kind of wanted. I think they wanted to do something with that whole thing with clergy sexual abuse, and so there's this guy, a victim survivor, Mr. Williams. His first name was what? Mark. Yeah, Mark. And he's very eloquent, very committed Catholic. He didn't walk away from the church with this thing. And so he spoke, and he could be, he could be challenging, but in a respectful way. I mean, he wasn't like totally in the face of the bishops, and but he's just okay. Here's and then the McCarrick situation in 2018, that kind of re-triggered things for him, yeah, and it was hard. And so his bishop is Cardinal Tobin, and they met somewhere. Somehow they ended up talking and getting to know each other, and so they each told the story of that in their own way. First, Mr. Williams, and the thing about Cardinal Tobin was, he was hurting too, not as deeply as somebody's been abused,
yeah.
But the McCarrick thing was centered in his diocese because before he got there, that was kind of where McCarrick was, and then also there was a Pennsylvania Attorney General report was about that time, which was really hard for everybody, and whatever else, and so they're both hurting, and they connect in that pain. And they both respect each other, admire each other, and they've walked with each other. They've walked with each other, and probably more so, Cardinal Tobin walking with Mr. Williams, and it was touching for me anyway.
Wow.
Very very moving that just that relationship, as you termed it, how good that's been actually for both of them, and he's. Bishop Cardinal Tobin goes to him for, advice or kind of running things by him, things that went with regard to clergy sexual abuse and how the church is dealing with that. And he's like, he's one of his advisors on that kind of a thing. And so they went into more detail on that. I can't remember all the details, but it doesn't matter for this. But it was the church at its best, I think.
Well, and you have a relationship with Cardinal Tobin yourself, because isn't he the head of the African?
He was.
Committee? Okay, he's not.
Yeah, no, but he went to our meeting. We had a meeting, before before the big meeting, and he's still something that's important to him, and yeah, so he was at that.
Oh, that's great. And so then I was just wondering, so you talked about that, and then you talked about some of the other things that you talked about that were really touching. Was the presentation by the Archbishop of the Ukrainian Catholic Archieparchy? How do you pronounce that? Archieparchy?
Archieparchy, I think, yeah.
Philadelphia. They should probably come up with a term that we can pronounce a little easier, but at any rate, you talked about a presentation he gave that was really moving. I think his name was Archbishop Boris Gudziak?
You know, I don't know about the arch. It's eparchy. Is that? So it's an arch eparchy. Maybe it's probably arch eparchy. Probably. Anyway, so
Okay.
yeah, right. He gave a.
Tell me about that. What was he talking about, and why was he invited to be there?
Well, this. If you pay attention to the news, there's some stuff about Ukraine in there.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
And-
There's a war going on there.
Right. So it was because of that, and he spoke eloquently and with passion and about that whole situation. He's kind of laid it out. He was very, very, very grateful to the church in the United States, supporting them. Very that was good to hear. I didn't even realize how much the church has been helping, and obviously the country as well. You know, kind of in its role. So he talked about that whole situation, and he gave numbers about, you know, how this is affecting people over there, numbers of people, and, you know, houses without electricity, and the destruction of houses and healthcare facilities and schools. And if he was talking now, he would talk. I don't think that time he talked about the electrical system.
Yeah.
That's the system for what would that be? Electrical? No.
Yeah,
electricity system, the grid,
electric grid or whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, that was kind of like, I think right after that.
Right.
That's another terrible thing. And so he was just kind of helping us understand how much his people are being affected by that. Or, you know, I mean, he's in the United States, but.
We even talked about, like, just the idea of something as simple as millions of windows had been broken.
Yeah, he made
out.
it. That's something I never thought about, but he made a big point about that. Just kind of help you get a sense of that. So it's winter's coming, and he compared it to the Twin Cities and Chicago, and can you imagine not having windows in your house? And I was thinking, well, why can't you just put plywood? You know, I mean, it's not gonna, you know, if you have good windows, it's going to be more efficient with regard to heat. But then I was thinking, gosh, but then you wouldn't have light, right? Can you imagine how that? So that
I
just
don't know
kind
which
of
is
like
worse, no light or no heat.
no, I know, but it just puts it in perspective. Okay, I don't have a house that's terrible. I mean, really terrible, but gosh, we have a house but no windows. And
I mean, they say Russia is using the weather he's weaponizing the weather to try and
right.
harm the people of that country, and it's just amazing.
Yeah,
But-
it is, right. So in terms of relationship too, he did say at the end, he invited, and he's going to be going there in February or something, and he was invited anybody to come along with him, any of the bishops, because you know, when you're that firsthand thing, you get, you know, you obviously it's much more of an impact than if you just read
Is
about
that
it.
something that intrigues you?
Yeah, I would love to go there, except I was just to Africa and
That's right.
Ireland, and I have some other things I need to do. A couple places I have to go that time of the year. I would love to go and experience that, but it's not the right time for me.
Not the right time. And then I guess you got an update on the National Eucharistic Revival. I know our diocese is involved in that, this 3-year initiative.
Yeah, the new thing with that, and this came out before a meeting, you know, shortly beforehand, so it wasn't like brand new information if you're just paying attention, but that there's these kind of pilgrimages, like you know, to Indianapolis, starting one at the border, one somewhere out west, and then someplace in the Northeast, and at the headwaters of the Mississippi or something.
All right.
And so that's this new thing that some people are really getting excited about, especially like young people. Anyway, so and then otherwise it was just kind of the cost is going to be half as much, like 14 million or 13 million versus.
That's good.
Which was because some people were critical about how much it would cost, and so anyway, just giving an update on that.
So are we going to try and send some pilgrims from our diocese?
I don't know.
On this Eucharistic Revival walk, but
I don't know. I have to talk to
we'll have to
those in charge. I haven't heard anything about that, but it's a ways away in terms of the details. I think this is just a new thing that they're they're going to
Right.
do there.
You think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, if you do it in the right way,
Yeah, too bad it's not a bike ride, Bishop.
yeah, we could. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Carrying the Blessed Sacrament.
Oh, that would be a little. Well, I guess you could like have a little carrier on the front of your bike or
strap
something.
a monstrance to your
To
handlebars.
your handlebars. You'd have to be really careful about not
Yeah,
crashing.
Yeah.
Then you talked about, too, a presentation by the National Advisory Council, which included a suggestion for the bishops to develop practical and pastoral guidance on gender dysphoria to help lay people and clergy in their parishes, schools, and other settings. Now, I know we have the Diocese of Davenport has a gender committee, and you've been studying and wrestling with this issue for nearly 2 years. What can you talk about that?
Yeah, so that was one of 1,000 things to put out there. But yeah, we have been working on that and taking our time because it's a thorny subject, and there's kind of like everybody's trying to figure this thing out, and I don't know. We probably will put something out eventually, maybe even before too long. So some principles, I think, and then to kind of to keep in mind when decisions are made about that. I don't know. We're not sure if we're going to put out specific policies at this point,
Right.
because those are flashpoints for that. But it's just it's so there's the truth and the teachings of the church that it's really important. But then there's also the pastoral side of it. Walking with people and taking them where they are, and so how do you kind of blend that together? And I think we're thinking at this point that principles, and maybe we just deal with these on a case-by-case basis at this point, and kind of find our way. And we can always adjust and adapt and whatever. So we'll see. We've learned a lot over the last couple of years, a lot by talking to people and experts and people who suffer from gender dysphoria and whatever, and experts, and so we've learned a lot, and so I think we're better able to deal with that situation, but we're still learning, and
Well, and that's part of
figure it out.
relationship building too, isn't it? I mean, that's the learning and listening and growing together. I mean, listening to other people, whether it's experts in a field or people who have experienced.
right, and it's synodal,
Right.
I mean that's kind of listening and learning and whatever, accompanying.
And then,
I mean, one thing we're doing,
yeah.
I think we have a support group that I don't think it's up and running, but we're kind of offering that, I think that's sort of, I don't know if people have jumped on board with that yet, or I'm not sure what that's at exactly, but we're kind of want to offer that, in terms of walking with people and relationship and whatever.
It's very sensitive. It's a very, very sensitive subject. So
Yeah.
people are probably maybe a little, I don't know, reluctant to engage in the conversation, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe we just haven't got the word out very widely yet.
Yeah. And then I was just wondering, you also made a presentation at the, you were invited to make a presentation, I think, on behalf of the Catholic Campaign for Human Development for an award for one of our priests from our diocese, right?
Right. So it's an award. It's presented by the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, as you said, and it's called the Cardinal Bernardin New Leadership Award, which honors young adults who demonstrate leadership in fighting poverty and injustice in the United States through community-based solutions. So one of our priests, Father Guillermo Trevino, was nominated for that award, and he received it. It's just one award in the country each year, and so they asked me, since I was his bishop, to attend that ceremony and to give him the award. So that was.
What advice did you give him?
Well, the advice I gave him when I heard that he received the award, long before Baltimore, it was, I knew he was nominated and everything, so he let me know that he had, in a text or something, that he'd received the award, and my response was, congratulations, don't get a big head about it, don't let it go to your head. So that was my advice, and so yeah. So it was a lot of fun. There's some people that came from here, Catholic worker, a couple people, maybe one or two from there, and then he got a $1,000 kind of award, and he used it to pay for the airfare and hotel room for couple of people from each of the parishes.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really great. Yeah, that it, had been a part of the work that he's been doing, and so there's people there. People could kind of come and go. You kind of heavy hors d'oeuvres. You kind of graze a little bit, whatever. And so during that time, I don't think were all there during the presentation. Maybe a couple of them were, but while people were hanging out for a long time before and after this award was given, and there were 4 cardinals that floated through. It was interesting. And of course, Father Guillermo had selfies taken with each of them. That's his thing. And it's out there on social media, I'm sure, and everything else. And so it was actually a lot of fun. People were in good humor, and I enjoyed being a part of that.
That's great. What were some other highlights from the meeting that, the whole, regarding relationship building? What did you think of anything that really struck you as something to build on here in the diocese?
I don't know. I jot down a lot of notes about things like that. And I actually, after our first directors meeting, after the plenary assembly, I run around to about 4 or 5 different directors. Okay, here's this thing that's going on, and that thing, and are you aware of this? And here's something I learned, and so just kind of that, making connections with folks, and and learning things and passing it on to. Most of the things they already knew something about it, but then there were some things about just different programs, different whatever things that are out there. But then there were some things, not like at that level, but just something I learned that was interesting, and I'm thinking, maybe this is something we can do in our diocese. I never, when I give those people, I don't. It's just because I don't expect them necessarily to run with it. I mean, I'll let them know if that's the case. But more so, it's here's something to think about, and so that's all relationships, that from there and then back here.
And what about you had a meeting of your subcommittee on Africa? Didn't you have one of those before the meeting?
Yeah, it was on I think the Sunday before.
Didn't you give a presentation on your trip to Africa?
Yeah, so they wanted me to do that. So we go through all the stuff, your regular business, including especially the grants, and which ones we are going to accept and how much. And a lot of that work's been done ahead of time, so it's not like it's just kind of, it's anything anyone wants to talk about. But there's all this other stuff we talk about, and then they wanted me to, and Fritz, the guy that from the is a consultant to that committee, to kind of talk about our trip. And so there's a PowerPoint and photos, and I was mostly, he wanted me to kind of be the presenter, and then he could fill in along the way. And kind of it was partly, it was one thing. One thing was just what you learn, and for everybody, it's because it was really helpful to be there. And when you're looking at these grants and stuff, and it's all sort of over there somewhere, to actually be there. I wasn't in all of Africa, just a couple places in southern Africa. But so kind of it could help them in terms of evaluating these grants and being a member of this committee and the work that we do to see it through my eyes, right? My experience. So I just kind of try to put it all out there. But also, they'd kind of like maybe have other bishops do that. I mean, there's only, there's some cost involved, but maybe like even if it was just like one a year
Right.
to go to some part of Africa to do kind of something similar. You're part of this a plenary assembly of some regional group of bishops and dioceses, or and then I also, then besides that, that was in Namibia, and then I went to Malawi, and more just sort of that's more informal, kind of traveling around and visiting folks and stuff. So they kind of wanted to kind of get other bishops, interested in maybe doing that, because it's a big deal. I mean, I was there 2 weeks. It's hard for me to get away, and they wanted me to be there longer. I'm like, no, I can't. And so, I mean, even if it can't be 2 weeks, even if it's like a week, which is a long ways to go for a week, but a week and a half. Anyway, so afterwards, there's not that many bishops on this committee, but there are about 3 or 4 that were excited about going over there. So it was successful in that, because I want to learn more about this country, and part of it's just you want an experience and the church in Africa and everything, but also with this committee, it's work. Right. Those two can go together very well. We can do a better job.
So it is all about relationship building. Every aspect of that meeting, it sounds like, was involved with building a relationship in some way.
Yeah, I mean that's hopefully life.
That's right.
We can, but yeah, this meeting maybe we focus on that more intentionally.
Yes.
And some of the stuff we talked about was just the normal stuff, but it was more intentional here. But even the normal thing, sometimes we kind of take that for granted, and we don't think that through, and we can focus on that more and build stronger relationships and do a better job of advancing the kingdom of God.
So more round tables. Did Jesus have a round table at the Last Supper?
Well, there's the Leonardo da Vinci one. It wasn't round.
No.
They're all on one side.
It was like one of those level ones.
They were all on one side. They probably wasn't a table. I think they sit in the floor.
Well, in that Last Supper painting, it looks like
I know that's somebody.
They probably did
hundreds
sit
of
on the
years
floor.
later.
We'll have to check that out.
You have to
Well, thanks.
research on the internet.
Okay, I'll do that. We'll talk about that next time, maybe.
Okay, I think I'm going to be sick that day.
Thanks a lot, Bishop.
Yeah, you're welcome.
See you next time.